recording. I'm Bill Volano, and we're here in the Ypsilanti District Library, and I'm here with my assistant, Carolyn Mason, and we're talking today to Dennis Stanford. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Just fine.
And I see you served in Vietnam.
Yes.
You were born in Ypsilanti. Where are you living then?
In Lansing presently.
Oh, are you?
Mm-hmm.
What got you up to Lansing?
Well, I was working with the Michigan Rehabilitation Council.
Oh,
And so I went up there so I wouldn't have to drive back and forth from Ypsilanti for meetings and stuff. And I got appointed in 2010 under Governor Granholm, and then reappointed under Governor Snyder.
Oh, good.
For the last year, so it was a 3-year term. So no complaints there.
So you were in the Navy, and I'm assuming that you joined. You don't get drafted into the Navy, or do you? I don't know anymore.
Right. No drafting.
No. Okay. And that was when did you enter the Navy?
February of '69. Went to boot camp in Great Lakes. Then I left there and I went to radio school in Bainbridge, Maryland. Then I left there and I went to International Morse Code School in Charleston, South Carolina. And then they sent me to the USS Dubuque, the Amphibious landing docking.
Were you involved in amphibious landings?
We carried all of the tanks
Oh.
and everything else for everybody over there. And we went inland, up the rivers, in the bays, up the rivers.
Was the, I'm not a Navy man, so excuse my terminology. Did the boat or ship?
The way it's built is the back of it is a well deck, and the back of it opens up. And that's when they bring all the tanks around and put them in. And then when they let them out, same thing. It just opens up the back and lets them out. Plus it's got the helo deck on top of it in the back.
For copters?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we were with the Amphibious squadrons over there. We carried Admiral on board.
Oh, you did?
So we were a flagship. Yeah.
In an amphibious ship, you had a flag on it?
Yeah, we had the Admiral.
You
Yeah.
had an admiral? Wow.
Yeah, we were pretty busy.
I thought admirals saved their presence for battleships and carriers and things.
Well, they do, but you're also on amphibs, because you got your amphibious squadrons out there too. All your LPDs, LSTs, LSDs, all the amphibious landing ships. Somebody's got to be in control of them. Somebody's got to be there.
Was it difficult to land these tanks and things?
No.
Troops?
Not really. We carried a lot of Marines too, and most of the time we could just pull into Da Nang, pier side, or either we could just dock out in the harbor and go ahead and let them off on the boats and take them in.
Oh, I see. So when you were upriver, so to speak, you weren't in any enemy fire or anything while you were unloading?
No, we came closer to something being in the bay, more or less. More problems being in areas like that. We had one incident upriver.
What was
They
that?
just had some bubbles coming up to the ship.
Some what?
Bubbles, a trail of bubbles coming up towards the ship. And they didn't know what it was, so they just threw some grenades over the side.
What was it?
Never saw it. Could have been up underneath underneath the ship in the flat section in the back, for all we know.
It wasn't deep enough for a submarine. Was it?
No.
Could have been.
They're looking at possibly, a diver or something.
Oh yeah.
But we never did see what it was or anything. And we were also in Cameron Bay, and they were fighting on the other side of the mountain. Of course, they knew we were there.
they knew you were there?
Well, they had their surveillance and, intelligence. Because every time we went anywhere, we always kept track of how far they were away. Because they seemed to know exactly every time we were in port or came into somewhere. And,
They must have had some pretty fair intelligence.
yeah, well, you don't know who's who out there in that street, or who working on base even.
Oh, I see what you mean,
Yeah, so, but yeah, Cameron Bay they were fighting over the mountain, and a couple of guys got into a fight at the club on base with the chief, and one of them was a boatswain, little third-class shore patrol, and they got into a fight, and they actually kicked us out of Cameron Bay. And as we were sailing back to Subic Bay, we got a radio message that the enlisted club was a hole in the ground. They had fired a mortar and blew it away.
Oh, lucky got into the fight.
Yeah, and we had to leave. And they kicked us out. They said, you guys got to leave. So they always got a kick out of that one on board.
Oh.
Well, yeah, we got kicked out of Vietnam. But yeah, it was a good thing. Then.
Good thing, yeah.
Wow. But that was that incident.
What was the fight about, do you know?
Well, the boatswain chief, he was in charge of the third class, who was shore patrol that day.
Oh,
And the boatswain chief was a little lit and acting up, and that was almost like the opportune time for this third class to finally have his say, be in the shore patrol, so. As soon as he did that, then all the other chiefs wanted to jump in, and everybody else wanted to jump in for the shore patrol, and that was all she wrote.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, it was a scuffle all the way back to the ship. Then when he got back to the ship, it was over.
Did anybody survive that mortar?
I don't know they never said what happened. If they say the bartenders or whoever was in there or anything, they never said anything other than it was a hole in the ground. So they must have threw a rocket up in there.
About how long was it between leaving there and hearing about it?
It was probably, let me see, we left and we were on our way. We were only out about a couple hours out, about 3 hours. It's one of those things.
Somebody up there is watching out for you guys.
Yeah, got us out of there. That ship is still in commission too.
Is it?
Yeah. It's still around, and it's had its fair share. They're the ones that wouldn't let the people on the boat in the Indian Ocean. And the people reverted to cannibalism.
Oh, yeah? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what was that?
That was years after, but I can't remember exact details, but they were the ship that was, they wouldn't let them on board or something. I don't know why, but they left them stranded out there for another ship to pick them up. So I don't know exactly what happened with all of that.
And what,
I just heard about it.
what did it have to do with cannibalism?
I guess they were starving and, didn't have any food out there in the ocean. I don't know.
Civilians that were shipwrecked, right?
Kind of shipwrecked, I guess.
Just
I don't know if they were trying to get away from, what country, but they're out there in the middle of the ocean, in the Indian Ocean, so it's hard to say. I had just heard about it and thought it was kind of interesting that, it ended up being the same ship.
Yeah, yeah. Were you up in the rivers and places like that in Vietnam?
We only went up a couple rivers, and I can't even remember the names of them. We didn't go up to Saigon. And the rivers we went up, I've got the ship's logs that I got them because I needed them for disability. But yeah, and it mentions that whole period I was on the ship. I just got it from October or somewhere in there. I just got the section from October of 69 through, I think like June of 70, that I had of the ship's logs, because they're finally declassified. So I was using that just for my disability from Agent Orange and everything.
Was that to prove that you were there?
Yeah, because you had to prove you were actually on land.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, you got some, I guess there's a few guys around here. One used to be a fighter pilot. He's all messed up and he gets nothing because he was in the air. And he never set foot. That's their stipulation. You have to set foot. They don't care if you know, were on a plane coming through there and you got off and had a pop and got back on. But you had to prove that you set foot in Vietnam in order to get the disability for Agent Orange.
Now I see you have a number of pins on your hat. Do you have an Agent Orange pin?
Yes, it's probably right there somewhere.
No, it's not. Let me see. I know what it is. Is that it? Oh, okay. I got a different one.
I had ordered them from online.
Uh-huh.
That's where I got all my pins from. Okay, yeah.
And not that I had Agent Orange, but that was just a fundraiser.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you actually get in contact with Agent Orange, or the whole place?
Right. I don't know how it happened, but it happened.
What kind of disability did it cause for you?
I had prostate cancer in '06, and I got Parkinson's now.
And
And I've been through the Parkinson's operation for deep brain stimulation
Oh
out
yeah.
in San Francisco at the Naval Hospital.
Did it work?
It works for the shakes.
Uh-huh.
Because the shakes were pretty bad in the arms and stuff. But it doesn't stop any of the dyskinesis or anything with the muscles contracting and foot turning and everything else. But it helps with the shakes. And that's about all it,
Well, and
every little bit helps.
Yeah. I would not have guessed that you had Parkinson's looking at you.
Yeah. So it doesn't show. Sometimes it shows, sometimes it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, especially if I'm standing up, like in the kitchen or something, and I move to go around or something, and all of a sudden it kicks in and it starts twitching my leg and turning it foot inside, and it's, I can't stop it until it decides it stops. But it's one of those things you just deal with.
Yeah. So you're really you're service connected. Your disabilities are.
Mm-hmm.
They're considered.
And I have my left knee replaced. That was messed up in the service too.
That was from service.
Mm-hmm.
Had you
just had it replaced in '09.
Had you injured it?
Mm-hmm.
How?
And it got injured, it had a torn meniscus.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, it seemed like they operated on it twice. And the second time they got it all out. And it was fine for a while, but over the years, the wear and tear on it finally catches up to it, and the cartilage breaks down, then it's bone to bone, and
Yeah, absolutely.
then it's time to replace it.
Mm-hmm. So what were you doing on the carrier?
I went to the carrier after I had the second operation, first knee operation.
Uh-huh.
I was sent to the Hancock as their teletype repairman. Because when I was in Norfolk with brother duty, that's when I went to teletype repair school, because only radiomen went to teletype repair school because they operated the teletype
Oh, sure.
at the
Right.
time.
Makes
So
sense.
I went on board as a teletype repairman, and I went on board the first 2 days. I overhauled every machine in there to get it out of the way to make sure they were going to work, and wouldn't have to worry about them. And then I was working with another third class, and I showed him how to break them down and put them back together. And because we broke it down, he says, "I'll never be able to do that." He says, "You will. Just take your time. It'll fall." And then by the time I left there, he could do it. It's a pretty complex machine, 10,000 moving parts. We had our old joke was, it's that it never had enough moving parts to think about if it was just a small project, you know. 1 or 2 moving parts was our joke of, oh, too many moving parts for you. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. And our motto above the Teletype shop after I got off the Hancock and went to the Teletype shop at the Development and Training Center in San Diego, we had a sign above our door that says, "If we can't fix it, it ain't broke." So my daughter asked me one day, she says, "Well, what if you can't fix it?" I said, "It ain't broke." So she got a kick out of that. That was where this picture was taken, when I was there at the Teletype shop in San Diego. They just happened to come through, a couple of journalists in Jet magazine, and said, "Hey."
Was this in Jet?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Actually, that's Jet magazine underneath that cover there. Yeah.
Was that the last ship you served on, or?
No, I went from the Abnaki, I went from the Dubuque to the Sierra for brother duty in Norfolk, Virginia. It's my brother.
Oh,
We had brother duty together in Norfolk for a year. He was a dental tech.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, dental technician,
Oh, yeah, well, it's,
DT2,
Right in front of you. Here you go.
with James Randolph, Stanford.
is he a younger brother, older?
No, he was older. He was 2 years older than me.
Show this one.
Oh.
That was the,
That was San Diego at the Teletype shop with Jet
Yeah,
magazine.
yeah,
And then we had a picture here of both of us together at my grandmother's funeral, or grandfather's funeral. These guys are from the USS Sierra too. This whole group
Oh,
of characters. We were all on board ship together and we hung out together. And this
I'll
is
take another
both
picture.
of us together at our grandfather's funeral.
Oh,
But, and while we're at it, this is our father, and he was in the Navy,
Oh, so you're,
World War II, Shore Patrol, Oakland, California.
Was that, okay. Was that pretty tense there? You say he was in Oakland?
Yeah, well, it's kind of crazy.
Well, you know, everybody was sure that the Japanese were going to invade
Right,
California.
right. Yeah, because even like the hospital where I had my operation for the deep brain stimulation, it used to be an old base, Army base. And now it's just a naval hospital complex. And it was right at the mouth of the San Francisco Bay on the ocean, right?
Yes.
Sitting right there where you could see everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, which hospital was it when it was an Army hospital? Do you remember?
Oh, shoot. I saw them. Actually, I think I took a picture of the flag, but I didn't. Because I also got it. I also got it.
But what's it called now? I forget. It's the hospital I went with him to.
Yes, the naval San Francisco VA hospital. It's oh shoot, I had a picture. It was what? 1940s.
I'm trying to think because I knew all of those hospitals in that area.
Yeah, and at that time it was, like I said, it was a base.
It said right on the ledge.
Right up on the top where you could just look down and see everything you needed to see. And
Well, that's okay.
I'll find it. I'll find one and we'll
Is this
add it.
Is it
Simmons.
That's okay.
Is that the one?
Wasn't Fitzsimmons?
But let me see. Then I went from the Dubuque to the Sierra, and then I went from the Sierra to the Boost Training Program, which is a broad opportunity for officers selection and training in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
It's like going to officer school. And
So-
he's taking those courses for that program. And then I got out of the program about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months into it, and went back to the fleet. And when they sent me back to the fleet, they sent me to USS Shasta, which was an ammunition ship, to be the teletype repairman.
Why did you get out of that training program?
I considered it double jeopardy of what I saw was to happening to some of the kids on base and stuff. You know, where they go out in town and they get into trouble, and then they come back on base and they get the double slam on it, you know. But I know that's the way it works, you know. Uniform Code of Military Justice, you know. You got civilian justice, you got military justice. But it just rubbed me the wrong way, and it's just, I'll go back to the fleet.
Did they end up being commissioned after?
Yes. I ran into Goldilocks when I was at Treasure Island, at the communication station there. I ran into him on the street one day, and he had his stripes. And some of the other guys that are all in San Diego still, they got their commissions. What was it? DaCosta, I think last time I had heard he was a commander. And oh shoot, I know his name, and I'm trying to think of it. He had made officer. A few of them made officer. I just can't remember all of their names now, but some of them were in the pictures.
Oh, come look at them.
In this picture here. Some of the guys got out and stayed in, and became chiefs and stuff, and master chiefs, and retired. And others went in and got out and went all the way through.
And these are the ones that were in the program. Now, the thing that strikes me is that
This was 9 years after. Picture of us all together.
oh, okay. Now, those are all black men there.
Yeah. No, we had a couple Japanese, and we had a couple Puerto Ricans, and because DaCosta, he was Puerto Rican, and Rosso, he was Puerto Rican, and the other one I was trying to remember was Moon.
What was there an
It's an
attempt
officer.
to?
It was all minorities.
I was going to say, was
Yeah,
there
it was
an
a minority program.
attempt to bring minorities into the
Right, because
commission?
that's why it was called Boots, broaden opportunity
Broaden opportunities.
for
Oh, yeah,
officer
okay.
selection and training.
That's what was in the
Advertising.
Ebony.
Right.
Jet, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And we only had one incident where there was, they had found some dynamite in the dumpster next to the building,
Okay.
but they didn't find any caps or anything. So we don't know what that was about,
Give it gas.
but. Right, so, but yeah, so that was the only thing that happened with that. But as I said, I went from there, when I left there, I went to the USS Shasta, the ammo ship, as the teletype repairman and radioman. And I refurbished 2 teletypes from the scrapyard in Oakland and installed them aboard the ship. And I installed the first one, and then after I did that, they said, oh, well, let's get a second one. So then I get a second one, we're working on it, trying to get it together, and had my lieutenant commander hanging over my back. It's like, I always ask, when's it going to be done? You can't hurry these things. You got to make sure it's wired right and everything's working. And so I got a little upset with it, and I decided to talk to one of the radiomen, and I told him I'd deliver messages. So I took the messages and delivered them to everybody and took them up to the captain in his cabin. And he asked me how things were going. I said, well, they're going not so good. And he says, well, what do you mean? I says, well, Lieutenant Commander, can I say his name or not? Should I say his name or?
Sure you can, a long time ago.
Yeah, Lieutenant Commander Larson was, was on my back. I'm trying to get this, other teletype together. And, I just don't need him hanging over me while I'm trying to do this. So he said, okay, well, don't worry about it, So I left and went back to the radio shack, and I'm sitting back down working on the teletype. And all of a sudden, over to 1MC, it says, Lieutenant Commander Larson, would you report to the captain's cabin? And so he goes up there, I guess, the captain more or less told him to leave him alone, because, if I can't fix it, there's nobody on board that can. And so all of a sudden I just hear this door slam as he comes into the radio shack, and he's saying, you jumped the chain of command. I didn't jump the chain of command. I says, the captain asked me if anything was wrong, and I told him. And after that, it didn't bother me anymore. He's actually at the University of Purdue.
Oh, is that right?
He's a professor over there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of keep track on the military.com of who's who and who's on what ship, and you stay kind of in touch with ship buddies and everybody that's on the list. And yeah, he's on that list of people on board the Shasta.
You keep track, have you had reunions?
No, I haven't seen one thing for a reunion for the Shasta. It's just you keep track online, internet.
Yeah.
You sign up for buddies, and just like with the Dubuque, after I had my problems and I got the ship's logs, I got in touch with a guy that was looking for proof that we were there, because he had what is it, heart problems, Xenia or whatever it's called, of the heart. And he needed proof that we were over there. So I sent him a copy. And he was from Maine. He had lived there. And then another one got a hold of me that was from Maryland, living in Maryland, and he got a hold of me too. And he needed proof. So I sent him a copy of it. But how many other guys are out there that don't even know,
Yeah.
But,
So
I just put it online that, I have, ship's logs from Vietnam. And I haven't got any other answers back other than those two guys.
So it's like a community online, or you join?
Yeah.
You
join your ship's force, more or less, your group. It doesn't matter what year you were on that ship. You end up on that list of, and it might be from 69 to 70s, might be 80 to 90, and then you can just look at the full list of everybody. And that's for every ship they got out there, for the ones that are, on the list.
I don't mean to be naive, but I would think that if I were serving under an ammo ship or on an ammo ship, I'd be a little bit apprehensive.
Yeah, well, when we commissioned it in Charleston, we had to go to Guantanamo for training for a couple of weeks. And then we left there and we went to Jamaica, and then we went to Cartagena, Colombia, then we went to the Panama Canal, to Panama City, then we left there and we went to Acapulco. And on our way up from Acapulco to San Francisco to Concord, one of the 500-pound bombs fell off the rack when we went through the storm.
Oh, my.
And when it hit the deck, the mess decks went silent. I mean, it wasn't armed, but you could feel it all over the ship. And that's not a small ship. To have a 500-pound bomb fall, and it just shakes everything, But yeah, after that fell, then all of a sudden they come over to, 1MC saying, asking all the deckhands to, lay to the well decks and everything and getting strapped back in again. But yeah, always a little something here, a little something there to keep it going.
Kind of exciting.
then we left there after that ship. After that one came the, I think it was the Abenaki Fleet Tug. 65-man crew, leading radioman, had 7 guys under me and a lieutenant junior grade as our communications officer. We got along great. I did the same thing with the teletypes on there, make sure everything was straight. We didn't have to worry about waking me up in the middle of the night to fix something. And then that's when we escorted the ship from First Naval Vessel for Fiji, for their Navy, from Seattle to Fiji. We escorted them from Seattle to Hawaii.
Who did you escort?
It was a minesweeper. It was an old minesweeper. It was going to be their first naval vessel.
Oh,
So we escorted them from there to Hawaii. And in Hawaii, some of the kids were going to school in Hawaii at the university. So they had a party on board the ship and everything, and we met some people on board there, and they said, well, we're going to write them and let them know that you guys are coming down there, and we're going to make sure everything's taken care of. And so when we leave Hawaii and we're headed to Fiji, we get a distress call from this here corporate exec, and his wife is, I guess, an author. And he's fell off the mast and messed up his back.
oh boy.
So they were pulled into the cove at Palmyra Island. And so we docked outside the island and put out the small boat and went in there to get them and bring them out, and took them to Christmas Island so they could fly them to Hawaii to the hospital. And that's where that letter came from.
Oh, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, that was the letter from his wife that she sent to every crew member on board.
Thanking you.
Thanking us, and if we ever came to Australia, we could come to her place.
I see. That's pretty writing.
Because they had like three young kids. I think the oldest
they
was
had
like
kids
7.
with them?
They were sailing around the world in this here 50-foot sloop. And they were going to get up, they were going to stop in Panama, then they were going to go up to Disneyland. Then they were going to come back to Panama and get on board the ship, go through, and go to Disney World. And then they were going to leave there and to sail around Africa and back to Australia after they hit certain places.
Well, this is nice. She wrote to everybody on the crew?
Wrote to everybody a copy.
Fantastic. Yeah. How did he fall? You know?
Not sure, messing around up on that mast.
Yeah.
It could have been windy.
Yeah.
Could have slept. Yeah, but so I don't know what happened. We never heard any more about it after we dropped him off at Christmas Island to fly him to Hawaii. And I'm sure that interrupted their trip a little bit.
I'm sure, yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Oh, wow.
And then we finally did, after we did that, then we went on to Fiji with their naval vessel. We pulled into Fiji and it was like Fantasy Island. You know how they had Fantasy Island?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody on the dock and everything? That's exactly how it was. Because, it was like their first naval vessel. And the admiral had a big party at his house, in the house and out in the yard. And kegs of beer everywhere, and food everywhere, and maids everywhere. And we had a good old time.
Oh, that's great.
Good old time. I had one, I don't know if I had a picture tonight. One of the guys from Fiji, he was, I don't see his picture. I don't think I found it. But yeah.
What is this?
That was when I got my 3rd class. I was on board the USS Sierra. That was
what did
my
you
communications officer in the back in the middle there.
What did you end up? What grade did you
That was for 3rd class petty officer,
Uh-huh.
E4.
Uh-huh.
That was for that one.
Now tell me, what do you have here?
Okay, I don't have my good conduct medal. I don't know where that disappeared to, but this is your U.S. service medal.
Uh-huh.
And then you have your Vietnam Service Medal in Combat.
You got 2 stars on that, or?
Yeah, 2 campaigns. It's like four different ones equal 1 campaign.
Uh-huh.
It's more or less 4 operations.
Mm.
That was because we were on the Dubuque, and the Admiral, he wanted to keep busy, and he kept us busy. But yeah, and this is just a patch here. This is just from the Dubuque.
What's the
and
third one? I'm sorry.
The drill team.
No, the third.
This is combat.
That's correct.
Vietnam combat.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the drill team, and that was at Bainbridge, Maryland, when I was in radio school.
Were you on the drill team?
Yeah, and we did all the parades.
Oh, yeah.
We took first place in Delaware at the State Fair. We took first place in Philadelphia. And we did all of the funerals for Vietnam veterans and military, and throughout Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware, all in that area. And we raised and lowered the flag every day on base. So, and on top of going to radio school. So we kept pretty busy.
When I was in service, we used to get called out for different parades. You know, somebody was retiring or something. And we were a sorry-looking group. We really were. You know, these were hospital personnel people.
Mm-hmm.
And at Fort Sam, there was also a training school there for medical techs, and they were all spit and polish, you know. And,
Right.
And they'd come in and we looked terrible. We looked terrible no matter what, but compared to them, we looked just so bad.
Yeah, they're quite a crew.
I think my old ROTC unit did a better job.
Mm.
than those
Yeah, it's
guys.
kind of like the guys that go out and do, you know, like some of these basketball games for high schools and everything. It's like, hey, it's all volunteers, so
Yeah.
you can't expect them to be in step all the time.
So you ended up being an E5.
Mm-hmm. I was an E5 before 4 years was up. It was just I ended up being an E5 because at the time E6 and E7 was locked up because there was too many old chiefs and stuff at the time that wouldn't get out the Navy. You know, everybody wanted to stick around and not get out. So the rate was locked, and they tried to get me to re-enlist again after 8 years. And I said, well, I'm done. And I said, and the only way I could re-enlist is if I changed rates. You know, you spend all that time and money training me to do something, and I'm doing it, and then I have to change rates in order to get into a different class so I can advance. Because I had to repair teletypes over in the Philippines from other ships where they couldn't fix them. And I called the guy up and I said, you buy the teletype? And he said, yeah. I said, well, put the phone over by it. He put the phone over by it, and then I tell him what was wrong with it. And he said, you sure? I said, yeah. And he'd look at it and say, that is it. You know, and other times I just have to go over to the ships, different ships, because they needed somebody over there that knew the teletypes. And most of the guys that came out of the Development and Training Center, that's all we did for 2.5 years. Was break them down and put them back together.
You said 8 years. Were you in for 8 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did 2 stints. This is only one. The other one's behind it. This is only the top one. But yeah.
It might not be nice for me to ask this, but why did you re-enlist?
The first time?
Yeah.
The first time is, what was it, $10,000 re-enlistment?
Oh, that's
Radioman was at $10,000 then for re-enlisting.
Oh, well, that's good.
And then also, you know, I was able to buy a car.
Uh-huh.
I bought my car in Guam and picked it up in Reno, Nevada.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This one? The car?
Yeah, the Challenger, yeah.
That's the car.
Yeah, because they call it the top banana.
Yeah. By the way, on a family note, he can also listen to cars over the telephone and diagnose what's wrong with them.
I'm going to have to call you up.
Well, they give you a good sense of hearing with that Morse code.
Yeah.
I used to listen to, in restaurants, I could just pick out one conversation and listen to it and cut the rest out.
Oh, that's
Because when
great.
you copy Morse code, you're copying and they're throwing scrambles at you and music
Sure.
and
Oh.
everything while you're trying to copy it, and you gotta get up to 22 words a minute before you can get out of, graduating, so.
And you have to just target in
You
on,
focus on one thing and that's it.
And you said that you couldn't get to a chief's rating because the chiefs wouldn't
Right.
retire?
Right, it was,
wasn't that they
what
were-
it is, they called it back then, they called it pass but not advanced.
Yeah. But,
Because they had certain quotas for radiomen, for ETs, electronic technicians, boiler technicians, whatever. And if that was full, they couldn't advance anybody.
well, when I was in the Army, I was in the 50s, but I used to hear about the old Army, in the 40s. And they used to say that they always leave first sergeants vacant for anybody who was ready to retire, and they would, just prior to his retirement, they would promote them to first sergeant so
Okay,
that they get
keep it open.
so that they would get a better retirement.
Right, okay, yeah, I can see that happening.
But in the old Army, what happened is that most of those non-coms were up and down the ladder for all sorts of things. They'd get drunk.
Right,
you
right,
know,
yep.
Get busted and then work back up
Yeah,
again.
that's true. Or either they get their ranks in the field
Yeah, right. Yeah.
under combat conditions, all of a sudden someone's gone and okay, you're the new one.
Yeah, I met I guess he ended up being an LC, a lieutenant colonel, and when they took his commission away, combat committee, he ended up being an enlisted man. So that, I think he opted to go out.
Yeah, right, at that point.
Now tell me, you got discharged. What did you do then? Where did you go?
Well, I got out, I came back here and,
You're back to Ypsilanti?
and I worked in Ann Arbor at Giant Typewriter for a while, repairing typewriters.
Oh, uh-huh.
And then I left there and I went to Newman Computer and we were refurbishing IBM mag card and mag tape systems, the old systems. Doing all of those. And while I was there, John, who would come in, John Mulcair, who owned M&M Typewriter, would come in to do the finish up work because he used to work for IBM. And he'd go ahead and make sure everything was adjusted right and everything worked properly, and then we'd send them out. But we also did, back then, we also did the dictation equipment. Refurbished that too. At Newman Computer over there on North Main in Ann Arbor. And then I went to work for John. And John also, because him and his other partner used to have the business together, both were ex-IBMers, they had the vets training program, which was a voc rehab.
Mm-hmm.
So John took care of all the paperwork, we got that all straight, and I just went through the voc rehab for office machine repair with him. And I finished that up, and I worked, after we ended up working I worked for him for like 14 years. We took care of all the IBM selected typewriters, wheelwriters and stuff for U of M athletics, athletic department, ticket office. That was the only account we had there. We didn't have the whole campus, just the athletic department. We had Gelman Sciences, Park Davis, Eastern Michigan University, the whole campus. And a lot of select customers, Dr. Towsley.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
We had, we used to go to his house and fix his for his wife, Margaret. And a little bit of everybody around. We had Domino's Farms
Oh.
at the time. And it was because, the repair work we did gave us continuous customers, although we might not see them for a year. But when they have a problem, it was, they call us back in.
Yeah.
Right, so, yeah, we had a lot of customers in Washington County to keep us busy. Then after I left there, I went to work for Amigo Mobility, repairing scooters, little scooters, handicapped scooters and stuff.
Oh, yeah?
They made up in Bridgeport. They used to make the Amigo little scooters at and stuff. Went up there for training. I repaired them for a while. And then, while I was out repairing them one day, I saw a sign for Icon. No, wait a minute, which one? Oh, I left there and, then I went to Biomedical and repaired Alpine 1000 and the Drake 1000s and what was the other ones? I went to school down in Florida for dialysis machines.
Oh,
Repaired them for a while.
You
For a
repaired
couple
those?
of years, yeah. Baxter, went to Baxter's training school in Florida.
Mhm.
And then after that, I happened to be going around again, and I happened to see Icon Auto Solutions. So I ended up going to work for them, repairing Canon copiers. And their big room-size copier that prints like 100 copies a minute. Repaired that one. That was the main one. Went to school for 3 weeks just to repair that one because they had, up in northern Michigan, there was an opening, so I applied for it. And they had one of those copiers up there in the hospital, Northern Michigan Hospital in Petoskey. So I ended up going up there and, servicing that one. Plus I had all the copiers in the hospital. Plus out around Emmett County and down almost to Traverse City, Gaylord, to repair. So I just repaired copiers and stuff. And then one day while I was over at Walmart, they had an open house up at the casino in Victories, and they were getting ready to open the casino, and they were looking for people, and I just happened to talk to the director of slots, and he looked at my resume, and he says, well, you fix all this stuff, I know you can fix a slot machine. So I ended up getting into slots, repairing them for 7 years. Left Petoskey, went to San Diego, went to Golden Acorn, got an interview over the phone, got the job, and went out there and worked for them for a while. And I left there and went to Harris in San Diego because they had opened up. And they needed, someone to, take care of the shop and someone to help them, troubleshoot and train the other guys. And so I went over there and worked for them. And I left there. And while I was at Harris, I was training San Diego policemen and CHPs as gaming agents.
And what?
Gaming agents. It was for the Gaming Commission.
Yeah.
And so what happened was one of them that left there went to this other casino, Palma. And he called me up one day and he says, hey, how'd you like to be a gaming agent? He said, we need somebody that knows these machines. Because they didn't really know. So I says, yeah, well, why not? So I ended up over there working with him until my wrist gave out on me and I had to have an operation. Then I was on disability. And I ended up off on disability, and after that, I had to have a second wrist operation the next year.
Oh,
No, wait a minute, which one was first? Wrist and the prostate operation. Yeah, first was a prostate cancer operation when I was at Harris. And then when I went to Palma, I had the wrist operation. Then the next year I had another wrist operation, which put me on disability again. And so I needed my knee replaced. And I'd waited a year in San Diego, and I was still on the list. I said, well, I'm going to just come back to Michigan. I can go to Ann Arbor and get it done faster. Plus I had, problems getting claims through because everything took so long.
Yeah.
So I came back here and got my knee replaced and everything and ended up on disability. Called it a day.
Yeah.
Couldn't complain.
Well, you can.
Yeah. Not enough
You
stuff.
you mentioned your daughter. Do you have any other children?
No, just one daughter,
Uh-huh.
Dina. That's it, Dina Lorraine.
What does she do?
Dina works at the post office.
Uh-huh.
She works at the counter. She's a clerk. She works at the counter and supervisor. She's done a little bit of everything. Used to work for DPS distribution. She used to be a carrier. And now she just works the desk. This was her youngest picture.
Oh, my.
This was her mother, Lorraine, and Dina.
Oh, pretty,
Dina
pretty.
Lorraine and her mother. So it's Dina and I on our couch in San Diego.
Uh-huh.
And this is Dina and I at Balboa Park in San Diego.
So your family traveled with you then?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, it worked out because we drove out to San Diego and we were out there for like 2.5 years. Then we moved from there and I went up to the Naval Communication Station at Treasure Island. That's where they sent me after my first knee operation. It was like a rehab. They sent me to the shore station. And then we went and lived up in, I forget the name of it. That's crazy. Oakland. There's Oakland. Alameda.
oh.
We lived in Alameda outside the base, but it was, base housing. We lived up there for a while.
When was it that you were near Joe? And was he still in the Air Force?
That was, he was still in the Air Force then, and that was when I was on the Shasta, the ammo ship. Because we were stationed out of Concord, which is up the river. You come in the Bay of San Francisco, and it's east. Where the water all goes east. We remember those shipyards we saw? That's all of the old ships.
Yeah, okay.
It's further up the river. There's a weapons station up there, or an ammo station. And that's where we were stationed at. And then Joe was right in Novato, which wasn't that far away. So on weekends, he'd just come pick me up and I'd just go over there for a weekend.
Joe is?
First cousin. Joe Lynn. He's retired, Air Force, retired, post office. Works part-time at the Ace Hardware or something. Part-time at the casino.
Mm-hmm.
Playing his little slot machines every now and then.
So you had family out there, and you
Yeah.
had your family.
Right, that family, that part of the family there. Ricky he's right outside of San Bernardino, another cousin. He was in the Navy too. Ran into him in the Philippines.
Really?
Well, we ran into each other in the Philippines. It was amazing. Just out of the blue, his ship was in. He was on the USS Enterprise.
Uh-huh.
We just happened to be in there at the same time, and turned around in the club, and someone's hollering my name. And it's like, what's the likelihood of that?
Now, is your daughter living here?
Mm-hmm.
She's living in,
Belleville.
oh, uh-huh.
Yeah, she lives right in Belleville. She's actually just closing on a condo. She's renting one right now, but she's supposed to be closing on one in the complex.
She's closing on a
Condo.
condo?
Mhm. But yeah, she's still living here. Got 2 granddaughters, Bria, Stanford, and Danae Greenberry. Bria's graduated from high school, is working in a couple of homes for women, taking care of them. And Danae is in the 9th grade presently. She'll be going to Eastern Michigan next year under their program, to where when they graduate from high school, they've got their associate's degree in from college.
Yeah.
She starts that next year.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, her one cousin had gone through it, and through the same program, and that's how she heard about it. And so she applied for it and got it.
You mean it isn't that well known?
I guess not.
No.
I never heard about it until after, I forget his name. He went in first.
Huh.
She was talking about it. I never heard about it. We never had no programs like that when I was in high school.
Yeah.
All we had was college prep, but it was only college prep courses in high school.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to tell me or I need to know about you?
Can't think of much else. Been through about everything, huh?
I still don't know what all of your pins are up there.
This is Funeral Honor Guard.
Uh-huh. Are you in an honor guard?
Not now.
Were you?
This was with the drill team.
Oh.
We did the funerals and everything.
Yeah.
And the color guard was raising the flags.
Mm-hmm.
Radioman.
Yeah. Pacific Fleet.
This is the U.S. Naval Forces Vietnam.
Yeah.
This is Agent Orange.
Pacific Fleet.
Pacific Fleet when I was on brother duty. It's just Da Nang. We got Cameron Bay. Plank owner for commissioning the USS Shasta, the ammo ship.
What does that mean?
Plank owner, it means you own part of the ship.
Oh.
Every time you come on that ship, they got to ring you on, and every time you go off, they got to ring you off.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, every time. And what happened was one of my buddies that was in the Radio Shack, Alvin Rhodes, he went back after he had been to another duty station. He came back, this heavy.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
He came back to the ship, and he said he loved it. He said, every time I went somewhere and left the ship stand, since I came back, they had to ring me on board every time. You have to tell them plank owner arriving, plank owner departing, just like the captain.
Really?
Yeah, because you're a plank owner on that ship. You commissioned that ship. And now that ship is inactive, but yeah.
Oh, so when you commissioned it, you were on it when it originally,
Right,
okay.
yeah.
First.
When it was commissioned, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's nice. That really is.
Not just Gulf of Tonkin Yacht, they call it the Gulf of Tonkin Yacht Club.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, this is just a smaller version of the medals with the good
Yeah.
conduct medal. And the petty officer second class. That's all of them.
What do you remember, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What do you remember most from when you first went in the Navy? What was the differences and what was the biggest challenges, adjustments?
I think the biggest adjustments were some of the guys that were young. You know, it was like it wasn't a fit for them. You had some guys like from Kokomo, Indiana and stuff, you know, that still thought they were in the streets, you know. It's like, hey, you're not in the streets anymore, you know. You've been through boot camp. They should have straightened you out there. And then you want to, you know, act just like you're still in the streets in Kokomo or somewhere, you know.
Now, you were still in way after we got out of Vietnam then, right?
Right. Actually, I was on the ammo ship at the time, and we took a turn. We got a radio message at about midnight, and all of a sudden, the ship turned. We were sitting on the mess deck, and all of a sudden we felt the ship turning, and we were wondering. And so I went up to Radio Shack, and then the captain came over to 1MC and said that Nixon stopped the bombing. And we went out and looked, and we saw all these B-52s headed towards Guam, Vietnam, because we had just left Vietnam. And no, we were going to Vietnam with a load full of ammo. And then we got the call, and that was it. So we were turning around and going back to Yokosuka to offload the ammo.
Most of the Vietnam veterans that I've interviewed were told once they hit the States that, you know, take your uniform off, don't talk about it, anything else,
Right.
because of the you know, the attitude at that time.
Right, right,
was
yeah,
pretty bad.
all that, yeah,
Um,
all the demonstrations and
Yeah.
everything going on.
But I take it that you were kind of out after kind of the hump.
Yeah, it was
hump of
like
that.
3 years after that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I got out in 77,
yeah,
and that was like 73 when they stopped the bombing, somewhere right in there.
yeah. And most of the people I've talked to were people who got out in late 60s and early 70s.
Right, 68,
And
69,
that's when,
70.
you know, there was still a lot
Right,
of
still had it
damage.
up till 72.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't so bad when I got back. They weren't doing the demonstrations.
Well, I'm just pleased as punch that that's gone, and we are now embracing really Vietnam veterans. And I wear this U.S. Army hat, and I'm just amazed at the number of people who stop me and thank me for my service.
Yeah. Yeah, I had some young kids even stop me and say thank you and stuff when I was up in
Yeah,
Pulaski.
isn't that nice? Isn't it give you a nice feeling?
Right. Young kids, you know? So,
Yes,
wow,
oh,
what?
yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
And even in the store too, you know,
Mhm.
people say, well, did you serve in the Army? I said, yeah. And they say, well, thank you very much.
mm-hmm. Well, my cousin Russell, he was in Ray Myers and Russell Jenkins.
You're next.
And Raymond, his twin, Russell's twin brother, Raymond Jenkins, he was in the Air Force. She already did David Lynn, he was in the Navy. Ricky Lynn, he was in the Navy. Don Lynn, he was in the Navy and the Coast Guard and Federal Police Chief.
All during Vietnam?
Jimmy, he was in the Army. He was demolition. He still got shrapnel on his back from one of his buddies and stuff. Who else?
This was during Vietnam?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, that was during Vietnam.